In a city where everyone is hiding something, the most dangerous people are the ones you never even notice. The Silver Table wasn't just a restaurant. It was a fortress dressed up in fancy food and soft lighting. Politicians whispered secret deals over expensive steak. Actors buried their scandals behind 10-course meals. And men like Marcus Shin came there to pretend the blood on their empire had long since dried up. He sat beneath warm amber lights that cost more per hour than most people made in a week. Gold cufflinks, a jaw that looked like it was carved from stone. To the world scrolling past his name in business magazines, he was the genius who turned nightclubs into billion-dollar empires. But to the people who whispered his real name, Ihayan, he was still the Wolf of Busan. Still the man who had walked out of Korea with blood under his nails and a fortune built on fear. Tonight, he was trying hard to believe in civilized things. Across the polished marble floors and soft murmured conversations, Jade Ellis moved like water through stone. She didn't smile the way the other servers did, all bright and fake, and built to disappear into gratitude. Her face had the kind of stillness that comes from seeing too much and surviving it quietly. Her hands steady and precise as a surgeon's, refilled wine glasses and cleared plates with a kind of accuracy that felt almost military. Marcus noticed. He told himself he shouldn't have. But there was something in the way she scanned the room. Not the way a server scans looking for empty glasses, the way a soldier scans looking for exits. Her eyes mapped out every door like other people memorized menus. Her posture was coiled tight, always ready, never relaxed. She moved through the whole space like she was constantly calculating distances, angles, threats that didn't exist. Except tonight, they did. At 9:16 in the evening, the first gunshot cracked the air like a champagne bottle shattering on concrete. By 9:17, the Silver Table had become a completely different kind of trap, one where the walls were fear, the bars were bullets, and the only key to survival was a woman nobody had bothered to see. But to understand how a waitress became the only thing standing between a powerful man and death, you have to understand that Jade Ellis was not born in the shadows of Los Angeles restaurants. She was built somewhere far darker, in the kind of places where governments send people they want to forget, to do work they'll never admit to. And Marcus Shin, he had spent a lifetime believing that power made him untouchable. Tonight, 5 men with military training and a very old grudge were about to show him just how wrong he was. The glass didn't shatter. It exploded. One moment, the Silver Table hummed with the rhythm of wealth and whispered power. The next moment, the world became teeth and claws wrapped in gunfire. Jade's body reacted before her brain could even think. The sharp metallic smell of gunpowder hit her nose familiar, almost like an old memory, and her knees bent. Her center dropped low as chaos bloomed around her like a deadly flower opening up. 5 men, black gear, weapons raised with the confidence of people who had killed before and fully expected to kill again. They poured through the shattered window with military precision. Every instinct Jade had buried came screaming back to life. But these weren't amateurs storming a restaurant, and the man they came for wasn't cowering. Marcus Shin moved like liquid violence. The first attacker reached for him, and Marcus's hand shot out faster than any man in a tailored suit should be able to move. He caught the gunman's wrist and twisted. Bone cracked. The weapon clattered to the marble floor. Marcus drove his knee into the man's gut, then his elbow into his nose. The attacker went down hard, blood spreading across expensive Italian leather shoes. 2 more rushed him from opposite sides. Marcus swept left, avoided the first man's grab, and caught the second one by the throat. His fingers dug in with surgical precision. The kind of knowledge that doesn't come from training videos. It comes from actually ending lives. The man's eyes rolled back. Marcus released him, let him drop, then spun into the first attacker with a kick that connected with devastating force. This wasn't a businessman defending himself. This was the Wolf of Busan, and he had never actually stopped hunting. But the remaining 2 had flanked him, weapons pointed directly at his chest, professional, patient. Waiting for the kill shot, Jade moved. She grabbed the serving tray she had been holding and hurled it like a disc. It caught the left gunman hard across the temple, staggering him. Then she was already moving, closing the distance, smooth and fast, snatching a wine bottle from the nearest table. She didn't throw it. She used it. She smashed it against the bar's edge and drove the jagged glass into the flanking man's weapon hand. He screamed. The gun fell. She swept his legs out from under him, and he crashed into a table that splintered under his weight. The last man standing swung his weapon toward her. Marcus was already there, catching the gun barrel and twisting it upward as it went off into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. Marcus drove his forehead straight into the man's face, a brutal headbutt that shattered cartilage, then ripped the weapon free and brought it down on the man's skull with a finality that left no question. Silence fell like a curtain. 5 men lay broken on the floor. Marcus stood among them, chest heaving, suit torn at the shoulder, a thin line of blood running from his hairline. He looked like a god of war dressed for a board meeting. And Jade stood frozen, watching him, realizing she hadn't actually saved him at all. He had been managing just fine on his own. Their eyes met across the wreckage. His gaze was dark, intense, burning with something that made her breath catch. Not gratitude, not relief, something hungrier, more dangerous. "You fight well," he said, voice rough with adrenaline, "but you hesitated. That last man, you left him for me." "I didn't." Jade stopped. She had hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. Her body had recognized him as an equal threat, not someone who needed protecting. Marcus stepped over bodies like they were furniture, moving toward her with predatory focus. Blood stained his cufflinks. His jaw was set. He looked magnificent and terrifying. "Who are you?" Not a question, a demand. Jade's pulse hammered. Someone who should have stayed invisible. Too late for that. He was close now. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, sandalwood, and something darker, more primal, mixed with gunpowder and violence. "You move like a soldier. You fight like an operative, but you serve drinks in my restaurant." "Your restaurant? I own this place, own most of the block." His eyes never left hers. "Which means you work for me, and you just killed men in my establishment without permission." The air between them crackled. Jade should run, should disappear into the Los Angeles night and never look back, but something held her in place. The way he looked at her, like she was a puzzle he intended to solve with his bare hands if necessary. Sirens wailed in the distance. "The police are coming." Jade said quietly, "You need a story." "I have one, self-defense. 5 armed men attempted kidnapping. Civilian casualties avoided." Marcus tilted his head. "But you won't be here for it, will you? You'll vanish, because women like you don't talk to police." He knew. Somehow he already knew. Jade took a step back. Marcus matched it forward. "Stay," he said, simple, commanding, the voice of a man used to being obeyed. "I don't take orders." "Then take advice. Los Lobos sent these men. They know about you now, about what you can do. That makes you valuable or a liability." His gaze intensified. "I'm offering protection. I don't need it. Everyone needs something." He raised his hand slowly, deliberately, and wiped a speck of blood from her cheek with his thumb. The touch was electric, intimate, possessive, even gentle. Jade's breath stuttered. His hand lingered at her jaw, warm and solid. And for one impossible moment, she wanted to lean into it. Wanted to let someone else carry the weight she had been dragging for years. Then reason returned. She stepped back, breaking the contact. This was a mistake. She whispered, "No." Daniel's voice was certain. Final, this was fate. Jade turned and ran, disappearing through the kitchen exit before he could stop her, before her own body could betray her any further. But she felt his gaze on her back the entire way. Hot, possessive, inevitable. Like a predator watching prey he had already decided to claim. 48 hours after the silver table became a crime scene, Marcus sat in his penthouse watching the city spread out below him like a circuit board of sin and ambition. The media had feasted on the story. Billionaire businessman survives assassination attempt. 5 attackers dead. Heroic self-defense. His lawyers had crafted the narrative perfectly. But Marcus wasn't thinking about the story. He was thinking about her, Jade Ellis. The name felt like a lie in his mouth. Everything about her was carefully put together fiction. He had confirmed that within 6 hours of her disappearing, no work history before 2016, no paper trail, no digital footprint, just a ghost wearing a waitress uniform, moving through his world like smoke. "Victor," he said quietly, his head of security materialized from the shadows. "Sir, the woman from the restaurant, you found her, yes and no." Victor set a tablet on the desk. "She quit by text message 3 hours after the incident. No forwarding address, but our contacts spotted her in Koreatown, a place called the Brass Kettle Bar. She's tending bar there now." Marcus's lips curved, still hiding in plain sight, still serving drinks, still playing invisible, as if she could erase what he had witnessed, what they had shared in those brutal seconds of synchronized violence. "There's more," Victor continued. "Los Lobos, we identified the men from the restaurant, ex-military, mixed crew, and we found this." He swiped to a photo. A tattoo, a crowned skull with a snake coiled through empty eye sockets. Marcus's jaw tightened. Paulo Vega, his father's death still weighs heavy. Word on the street says Paulo has made it personal. He's not interested in territory or money anymore. He wants you humiliated, destroyed, dead. Then he'll have to stand in line. Marcus stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "I'm going out." "Sir, that's not alone, Victor." His security chief knew better than to argue. Marcus Shin hadn't survived 2 decades in this city by hiding behind bodyguards. He'd survived by being more dangerous than anything that hunted him. The drive to Koreatown took 30 minutes through evening traffic. Marcus piloted his black Mercedes through neon, lit streets, past restaurants steaming with real cooking, and shops selling dreams to people who had traded one struggle for another. This was his true kingdom, not the boardrooms and country clubs. These streets, where power spoke in languages the city pretended not to understand. The Brass Kettle occupied a corner lot, its flickering neon sign half dead. Inside, the air smelled like stale beer and resignation. A handful of regulars hunched over drinks, nursing wounds that had nothing to do with fists and everything to do with just living. And behind the bar, moving with that same hypnotic grace, was Jade. She looked up when he entered. Their eyes locked across the room, and Marcus felt it again, that electric jolt of recognition. 2 predators circling, deciding whether to fight or mate. She didn't look surprised, just resigned. Marcus sat at the bar. She approached slowly, like someone approaching a cage with a tiger inside. "Whiskey," he said, "the expensive kind you keep for people who actually matter." Jade's lips twitched, almost a smile. "We don't have expensive anything here." "Then give me whatever helps people forget." She poured bottom-shelf bourbon into a smudged glass, slid it across the scarred wood. Her fingers brushed his when he took it. "Brief, electric, deliberate, you found me," she said quietly. "Was I not supposed to? Most people can't. Most people don't try." She resumed wiping down the bar with mechanical precision. "What do you want, Mr. Shin?" "Marcus, and I want to understand why you're still here. I work here. You know what I mean, Los Angeles. You could disappear, go anywhere, become anyone, yet you stay, serve drinks, pretend to be normal." He leaned forward. "Why?" Jade's hand stilled. For a long moment, she just stared at the bar's surface. And Marcus saw something flicker across her face. Pain, maybe, or the ghost of it. "Because running gets exhausting," she finally said. "And sometimes you get tired of being no one, even if being someone gets you killed. Is someone hunting you?" Her eyes met his. "Dark, endless, always, yes. Then let me help." "You can't help me, Marcus. You can barely help yourself." She gestured toward the window. "Los Lobos is coming for you. Really coming. The restaurant was just the opening move. I know. They hit one of my warehouses last night. Killed 3 people. Left the same calling card." He took a sip of the truly terrible whiskey. "Which means you're right. They are coming, but they're also sloppy, emotional. And Paulo Vega is young enough to make mistakes his father never would have." "Youth doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it means not caring about consequences. Neither does age. Marcus set down his glass. I've fought wars most people don't know exist, built an empire from blood and necessity, survived things that should have killed me, and in all that time, I have never met anyone who moved the weight. You do. Jade's breath caught, almost too small to notice. You're romanticizing violence. No, I'm recognizing a kindred spirit. He stood, leaning across the bar until they were separated by inches. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. You felt it too, in that restaurant, when we fought together, the synchronization, the way we moved like we had trained together for years instead of seconds. That's not. Don't lie to me, Jade. I can taste lies, and yours is bitter. His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. You're hiding from something, someone, and you're doing it alone because you think that's safety. But isolation isn't protection. It's just slow death. Her pupils widened. Her pulse hammered visibly in her throat. Marcus watched her wage an internal war between what she wanted and what she believed she deserved. I saved your life, she whispered. No, you joined me in saving both our lives. There's a difference. He reached across the bar, traced one finger along her jaw. She shivered but didn't pull away. Let me return the favor. By offering what? Money, protection, men with guns. By offering partnership, equality, respect. His thumb brushed her lower lip and her breath hitched. By offering to actually see you. Not the mask, not the ghost, the woman underneath. Jade's eyes glistened. You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me, who are you really, Jade Ellis? The moment stretched between them. Taut, trembling, dangerous, then Jade pulled back, breaking the contact, and Marcus felt the loss like a physical wound. I'm someone who's seen what happens when people like us get too close, she said, voice thick. We burn everything we touch. Then let's burn together. Marcus straightened, adjusted his cufflinks with deliberate calm. Los Lobos is escalating. They'll hit me again soon, and when they do, they'll come harder, smarter, with better planning and more bodies. He met her gaze. I could use someone who understands how professionals think. Someone who fights like she was born to it. Someone who survived things most people can't imagine. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a choice. Keep hiding and hope they never connect you to me, which they will, because they already have surveillance on this bar. Or stand with me and face what's coming together. Jade's face went pale. Surveillance. Marcus pulled out his phone. Showed her the photos Victor had sent. A black SUV, 3 men parked across the street for hours, watching her building, watching the bar. They found you 12 hours ago, Marcus said quietly. I had my people scare them off, but they'll be back, and next time they won't just watch. Jade stared at the photos. And Marcus watched her expression change completely. The bartender vanished. The waitress disappeared. What remained was something colder, sharper, more dangerous. A weapon deciding whether to fire. When? She asked, voice flat. Tonight, maybe tomorrow. Paulo's pattern says he likes dramatic statements. Fire, spectacle, maximum terror. Marcus pocketed his phone. He'll hit you when you're most vulnerable, probably your apartment, probably while you sleep. Then I need to move now. Or you come with me. Marcus stepped back, giving her space to breathe, to think. My penthouse, full security, supplies, resources, everything you need to survive what's coming. And in exchange, help me find the leak in my organization. Someone told Los Lobos where to hit. Someone is feeding them information. And I need that person identified before they get more of my people killed. His voice hardened. After that, you're free to go. New identity if you want it. Clean papers, money. Whatever you need to disappear properly. Jade studied him for a long moment, weighing options, calculating odds. Why do you care, she finally asked, about me, about any of this? I'm just a waitress who happened to be there. Because I recognize you. Marcus held her gaze. Not just what you can do, what you are. The way you carry violence like a second skin you've tried to shed but can't. The way you scan exits and assess threats and never truly relax because you... No peace is a story people tell themselves before the knives come out. He took a breath. I see you, Jade, all of you, and I want you on my side when this city remembers what monsters look like. The words hung between them. heavy with meaning that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with the electric charge that sparked whenever they were close. Jade closed her eyes. This is a mistake. Probably. When she opened her eyes again, they were clear. Decided. One condition. I'm not your employee. I'm not your weapon. I'm your partner. Equal say. Equal risk. Marcus felt something in his chest. Satisfaction, maybe, or the thrill of claiming something wild and dangerous. Partners, then. He extended his hand. Jade looked at it for a long moment, then reached across the bar and took it. Her grip was firm, calloused. Strong, the handshake lasted longer than necessary, both of them unwilling to break the contact. I need to get my things, she said quietly. I'll wait. She disappeared into the back room. Marcus stood at the bar, feeling the eyes of the regulars who had been pretending not to watch. He smiled, cold, predatory, and they quickly returned to their drinks. When Jade came back 15 minutes later, she'd changed into dark jeans, boots, and a leather jacket that had seen better days. She carried a small duffel bag that probably held everything she owned in the world. Her hair was pulled back. Face clean of makeup, she looked younger, more real, ready, Marcus asked. Jade glanced around the bar one last time. At the neon light, the cracked vinyl stools, the carefully built anonymity she had constructed. Then she looked at him. Let's go hunt some ghosts. They walked out together into the Los Angeles night, and somewhere in the darkness, enemies watched and sharpened their knives. Marcus's penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a downtown high-rise that wore its wealth like armor, glass, steel, and unblocked views of a city that never stopped pretending it wasn't built. On Graves, Jade stood at the floor, the ceiling windows, watching traffic crawl below like tiny lit-up blood cells through concrete arteries. 42nd floor, she said quietly. Good sight lines, multiple exit paths through the building structure, reinforced glass. You've thought about this. Marcus came out of the bedroom in a black t-shirt and tailored slacks, somehow looking more dangerous without the suit's civilizing influence. I've survived a long time. Paranoia helps. That's not paranoia. That's trauma. Jade turned from the window. You've been hunted before, many times. He moved to the bar cart, poured 2 glasses of something amber and expensive. Busan, Seoul, Hong Kong. Every city where I built power, someone wanted to take it. Eventually you learn to live like you're always under siege. He handed her a glass. Their fingers brushed that same electric charge, only stronger now, more insistent. Jade took a sip. Single malt, probably older than she was. It burned beautifully going down. Tell me about your organization structure. Key personnel who has access to operational intelligence. Marcus's lips curved. I thought we might share a drink first. Get to know each other beyond violence and survival. That's dangerous. I'm aware. He stepped closer. Not crowding, but close enough that his body heat radiated across the space between them. What are you afraid of, Jade? Everything. The word lodged in her throat. She was afraid of the way he looked at her, like she mattered, like she was more than a weapon someone had sharpened and discarded. Afraid of the way her body responded to just being near him. The years of loneliness suddenly feeling like an open wound. I'm afraid, she said carefully, that you're confusing chemistry with connection. And if I'm not, then we're both in trouble. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was tender, devastating. I've lived my entire life in trouble, he said softly. One more disaster won't kill me. Jade's breath caught. His hand lingered at her cheek, his thumb tracing her cheekbone with unbearable gentleness. She should step back. Maintain distance. Remember that closeness was a weakness enemies would use against them. Instead, she leaned into his touch. This is a mistake, she whispered, even as her hand came up to cover his. You keep saying that. Marcus's other hand found her waist, pulling her slowly closer. But you're still here. I'm practical. Your penthouse has better security than a bar. Liar. The word was said with such warm certainty that Jade almost laughed. Instead, she looked up at him, at eyes dark with want and restraint, at a face that had seen too much violence to ever be truly soft, but was trying anyway. I don't know how to be close to someone without hurting them, she admitted. Then we'll learn together. Marcus's forehead touched hers. Their breath mixed in the small space between. I'm not asking for perfection, Jade. I'm asking for honesty, for partnership, for whatever this is between us that feels like gravity and gasoline. Her hands found his chest. She felt his heartbeat hammering beneath expensive cotton, strong, steady. Alive? When was the last time she had touched someone with gentleness instead of violence? If we do this, she said quietly, if we cross this line, people will use it against us. Los Lobos, whoever I ran from, they'll see it as weakness. Let them try. Marcus's hands tightened at her waist. I've spent 20 years being what everyone expected. The ruthless businessman, the wolf, the man without softness. Maybe it's time I stopped performing and started living. Jade looked up at him, searching for deception and finding only raw wanting. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you fight like war is a language you're fluent in. I know you hide because visibility means death. I know you're terrified of being seen and desperately lonely because of it. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I know what it's like to be a monster, pretending to be a man. And I know I haven't stopped thinking about you since the moment you threw that tray and rewrote my entire understanding of fate. Those words cracked something open inside her, something she'd locked away so deep she'd forgotten it existed. The part that still believed in connection, in being known, in choosing someone instead of just surviving them. Marcus, his name was a surrender. He kissed her, not rushed or frantic, but deliberate, claiming. His mouth moved against hers with the same precision he applied to everything. Controlled, thorough, devastating. Jade's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and the kiss deepened, turned hungry. Years of isolation burning away in the heat between them. Marcus's hands slid up her back into her hair, tilting her head to take the kiss deeper. Jade gasped against his mouth. He pressed her back against the window, cool glass at her spine, his warmth at her front, and everywhere they touched felt like electricity arcing between raw wires. Tell me to stop? He murmured against her lips. Don't you dare. He smiled, wild, fierce, completely unguarded. Then kissed her again, harder, more desperate. His hands moved with reverent urgency, learning her, the way you learn a map to somewhere you've been trying to find for a very long time. Bedroom, Jade managed, now. Marcus swept her into his arms, effortless, possessive, and carried her through the penthouse. Jade kissed his jaw, his neck, tasting salt and sandal, wood, and something uniquely him. He kicked open the bedroom door, laid her on sheets that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, and covered her body with his. The city sprawled beyond the windows, an audience of neon and indifference. Inside, time slowed and fractured into sensation, the slide of fabric being removed, the gasp of skin meeting skin, the whispered confessions that came easier in darkness. Marcus kissed every scar he found, asked silent questions with his lips. Jade answered by pulling him closer, wrapping herself around him like armor, like absolution. They moved together with the same synchronized precision they'd shown in violence. Only now the battle was intimacy. The victory, vulnerability. When they finally came together, it felt less like passion and more like recognition. Two people who had spent years being weapons, finally remembering they were human. Afterwards, they lay tangled in sheets, breathing hard, skin cooling in the climate. Controlled air. Marcus's hand traced idle patterns on her ribs. Jade's head rested on his chest, listening to his heartbeat return to normal. That was, he started. Yeah, silence settled over them, comfortable, heavy with unspoken understanding. Jade, I need you to know something. Marcus's voice was serious. This isn't strategy. I didn't do this to secure your loyalty or gain some tactical advantage. Jade lifted her head, met his eyes in the dim light filtering through the windows. I know, do you? She touched his face. The strong jaw, the small scar above his left eyebrow that probably had a violent story attached. I've been used before, manipulated, turned into a weapon by people who pretended to care. You're not them. How can you be sure? Because weapons recognize each other. She smiled. Small, sad, real, and you're just as broken as I am, just as tired of pretending. That's not something you can fake. Marcus pulled her closer, pressed a kiss to her forehead. Stay, not just tonight, for however long this takes, until we find your leak and deal with Los Lobos, until you don't want to run anymore. He met her gaze. Until you believe you deserve to stay somewhere with someone. Jade's throat tightened. That might be never. Then I'll have you for never. Marcus's arms tightened around her. I've survived worse odds, she wanted to argue, to explain that people like them didn't get happy endings, only brief rests between disasters. But exhaustion was pulling at her emotional, physical, soul, deep, and for the first time in years, she felt safe enough to let it win. Wake me if anything happens, she murmured against his chest. I will. Sleep, Jade. She did, and for once, the nightmares stayed away. Outside, the city pulsed with violence waiting to be born. Los Lobos sharpened their knives. Old enemies stirred in shadows. And somewhere, a surveillance camera captured two figures tangled together in a penthouse bedroom. Proof that even monsters could find grace in each other's arms. The storm was coming, but for one perfect night, they pretended they couldn't hear the thunder. Jade woke to the smell of smoke. Her eyes snapped open. Her body was already moving before conscious thought engaged. She was out of bed, pulling on clothes, scanning for threats, all within seconds. Marcus stood at the window, fully dressed, phone pressed to his ear, expression carved from ice. How many casualties? He demanded. Pause. Damn, I'm on my way. He ended the call, turned to Jade. His eyes were dark with barely contained rage. The silver table is burning, he said flatly. Arson. 3 staff members dead. Los Lobos left a message spray, painted on the building next door. His jaw clenched. Tigers bleed too. Jade's blood turned cold. The staff. 2 servers, 1 sous chef. All people who had worked there for years. Loyal, innocent. Daniel's hands fisted at his sides. Paulo is escalating, making it personal, showing me he can reach anyone connected to me. Connected to me, Jade said quietly. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. He knows about last night. Jade said quietly. Probably, my building has security, but surveillance is never perfect. If Los Lobos has been watching you, they saw you come here with me. Marcus crossed to her, gripped her shoulders. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. No. Jade met his gaze. This is war, and in war, people get hurt. You didn't start this. Paulo did when he decided revenge was worth more than business. Doesn't matter who started it, I'm finishing it. His voice was granite. I'm going to the restaurant. I need to see what they left, what clues. You're not going anywhere alone. That's what he wants, for you to be emotional, reckless, separated from your security. Jade grabbed her jacket. We go together, smart, prepared. She checked the concealed holster at her waist, the weapon Marcus had provided last night without asking, just understanding. Besides, you'll need someone who can rid the scene. I've seen enough covert arson to know what to look for. Marcus studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Victor's already there securing the perimeter. We'll take the armored car. He caught her hand. And Jade, thank you for not running. Where would I go? She squeezed his hand. Everywhere I've run, the fire follows. Might as well face it. They descended to the parking garage in tense silence. The car was black, bulletproof, and looked like it cost more than most people's houses. Marcus drove with controlled aggression, weaving through early morning traffic while Jade monitored their surroundings, checking mirrors, scanning rooftops, looking for telltale signs of ambush. The silver table was still burning when they arrived. Fire trucks sprayed water into what had once been a temple of wealth, now reduced to blackened bones and ash. Police had blocked off the block. Media vans circled like vultures, and standing amid the chaos, coordinating firefighters and investigators, was Victor. He spotted Marcus immediately, jogged over to the car. Sir, you shouldn't be here. This is still an active scene. Report. Marcus interrupted, climbing out. Victor glanced at Jade. A flicker of surprise quickly masked, then focused on Marcus. The accelerant used was professional grade. Multiple ignition points. They knew the building's structure, knew exactly where to hit for maximum damage. 3 casualties confirmed, all by smoke. Inhalation before the flames spread, and sir, he hesitated. There's something you need to see. They followed him around the perimeter, past exhausted firefighters and grim-faced investigators. The brick wall of the building next door had been turned into a canvas for brutality. Spray painted in red that looked too much like blood. Tigers bleed too. Your kingdom is ash. Your people are kindling. Paulo remembers, below the words, a crude drawing. A tiger with its throat cut, a crown falling from its head. Marcus stared at the message. His face was expressionless. But Jade saw his hands tremble, saw the rage building behind his eyes like a storm gathering force. "Where is Paulo operating from?" he asked quietly, too quietly. "We don't have confirmed. Victor." Marcus's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. His security chief swallowed. "Rumor says a warehouse near the port. An old textile building. But Marcus, we can't we?" Marcus turned to face him fully. "He burned my restaurant, killed my people, declared war on my entire empire. What exactly can't we do?" "Act rashly. Los Lobos will be expecting retaliation. They'll be fortified, prepared. We need intelligence, planning, strategy. We need blood." Marcus's eyes were chips of ice. "And we need it now." Jade stepped forward, placed herself between Marcus and Victor. "He's right about the trap, not the inaction." She met Marcus's gaze. "Paulo wants you emotional, wants you to charge in without thinking. That's when he'll hit you hardest. So I do nothing. Let him kill more of my people while I strategize." "No," you respond smart. "Hit him where he's not expecting." Jade turned to Victor. "That warehouse you mentioned, what else is in that area?" "Docks, shipping containers. Los Lobos runs weapons through there, uses it as a distribution." Victor stopped. "You want to hit his supply line. I want to cut off his resources, make him vulnerable, force him to move, force him to make mistakes." Jade looked back at Marcus. "You want revenge. Fine, but take it cold. Make him bleed slowly instead of martyring yourself on his blade." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with rage and reason. Finally, he nodded. "What do you need?" "Blueprints of the port district. Personnel files for Los Lobos' known associates." And Jade glanced at the burning restaurant. "A way to make Paulo think you're devastated, broken, so he lets his guard down." Understanding flickered in Marcus's eyes. "You want me to play wounded. I want you to give him a false victory. Let him think the fire worked, that you're scared. Then we hit him when he's celebrating." Jade's voice hardened. "Make him understand what it means to hunt a wolf." Victor looked between them. "You're serious about this. Deadly." Jade met his gaze. "I've run tactical operations against better prepared targets than Paulo Vega. He's emotional, young, operating on revenge instead of strategy. That makes him predictable, exploitable." "Who are you?" Victor asked quietly. "Someone who's very good at making people disappear." Jade turned to Marcus. "But I need autonomy, full access to your intelligence network, your contacts, your resources. No questions asked. Done." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Victor, give her whatever she needs, full clearance." His security chief looked like he wanted to argue, then just nodded. "I'll have everything sent to your secure server within the hour." "Good." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling a press conference. Public statement about the tragedy. Appeal for information. The usual grieving businessman routine." His voice dripped with disdain. "Paulo will eat it up." Jade watched him transform, shoulders slumping slightly, face arranging itself into something approximating devastation. The shift was subtle but complete, the wolf becoming the wounded gazelle. "You're good at this," she observed. "I've been wearing masks my whole life." Marcus's eyes met hers, and for a moment the mask cracked. "The question is which face is real anymore." Before Jade could respond, Victor's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. "Sir, we have a problem. Your apartment in Koreatown, the one Jade was using, it just exploded. Gas leak, they're saying, but nothing." Jade's voice was flat. "They tried to kill me, assumed I'd go back there." Marcus's hand found her arm, gripped tight. "You're staying with me. No arguments. I wasn't planning on making any." Jade looked at the smoldering restaurant, the spray-painted threats, the bodies being loaded into ambulances. This is past the point of running. They returned to the car. Victor trailed behind to coordinate with authorities. The drive back was silent, thick with unspoken understanding. Paulo had declared total war. There would be no negotiation. No peaceful resolution, only victory or death. Jade's apartment, her carefully constructed sanctuary of anonymity, was a crater when they drove past. Fire trucks still worked the scene. Neighbors clustered on sidewalks, filming on phones, hungry for tragedy to feed their social media appetites. She felt nothing looking at it, just the cold assessment of tactical loss. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly. "Don't be. I've lost more." Jade turned away from the window. "How many properties do you own in the city?" "Dozens. Why?" "Because we need somewhere Paulo doesn't know about. Somewhere off the books. No paper trail. No digital footprint." She met his eyes. "Somewhere he can't burn while we sleep." Marcus's jaw tightened, then he made a call, spoke rapid Korean. "Ended it. I have a place, Malibu Cliffs, purchased through shell companies. I've never even stayed there myself. Victor doesn't know about it. Perfect." They changed direction, heading west toward the coast. The city gave way to highway, then winding roads that climbed into hills overlooking the Pacific. Marcus drove with one hand, the other resting near the gear shift, close enough that Jade could feel the heat of his skin without actually touching. The safe house was a modernist box of glass and concrete cantilevered over cliffs that dropped straight into churning water below. Isolated, defensible, beautiful the way dangerous things often were, Marcus killed the engine. They sat in silence, listening to waves crash against rock. "We're alone now," Jade said, not a question. "Yes, good." She opened her door, stepped out into wind that tasted like salt and violence. "Because we need to talk about what comes next. And I need you to be honest about whether you're ready for it." Marcus followed her inside. The house was sparse, expensive minimalism, everything sharp angles and cold surfaces. Floor, the ceiling windows framed the ocean like a painting of something endless. Jade moved through the space, checking sight lines, exit points, defensive positions. Old habits. Marcus watched her with dark intensity, reading her body language the way she read terrain. "You think power makes you safe," she said, not looking at him. "It does." "No." Jade turned to face him. "It makes you a bigger target. Every empire you build, every enemy you crush. It just adds weight to the crown, and crowns are heavy, Marcus, heavy enough to break necks." "Is that what happened to you? The weight broke you?" Jade's laugh was bitter. "I was never broken. I was sharpened, honed, turned into something so efficient at eliminating threats that my own people were afraid to shut me down." She crossed her arms. "You want to know who I really am? Fine. Classified operations that officially don't exist. I've destabilized governments, eliminated targets in 17 countries, run operations that would make Paulo Vega look like a street kid with a slingshot." Marcus's expression didn't change, and then I got tired of being a weapon, tired of watching good people die for bad reasons. So I disappeared, buried myself so deep that even my own handlers couldn't find me. She met his gaze until you pulled me back into the light. I didn't pull, you chose to step into it. Maybe. Jade moved to the window, watched darkness swallow the horizon. Or maybe I was just tired of being invisible, of pretending I'm something I'm not. Marcus came up behind her, close enough that she could feel him in the space between heartbeats. "What are you, Jade?" "The same thing you are, a monster trying to remember what it feels like to be human." His hand found her shoulder, turned her gently. Their eyes met, and Jade saw her own exhaustion reflected back at her. The bone, deep weariness of people who had survived too long on rage and necessity. "Then let's be human together," Marcus said quietly, "just for tonight, before the war starts again." She wanted to say yes. Wanted to lean into the warmth of another person. To remember what connection felt like beyond synchronized violence. But every instinct screamed warnings about closeness, about the cost of caring when death was always one bullet away. "I don't know how," she whispered. "Neither do I." Marcus's thumb traced her jaw with unbearable gentleness. "But I'm willing to try if you are." Thunder rumbled in the distance. Jade could see the storm building over the ocean. Dark clouds pregnant with lightning, moving toward shore with inevitable purpose. "They'll come for us," she said. "Let them, people will die. They already are." Jade closed her eyes, felt his warmth bleeding through the small space between them. It would be so easy to close that gap, to take what he was offering, partnership, protection, maybe even something resembling peace. But peace was a lie. She had learned that in blood and fire and the screams of people who believed they were safe right up until the moment they weren't. "You should have let them finish it," she said, opening her eyes, "that night at the restaurant. Should have let me disappear. Now you're marked by association." Marcus's hand moved from her jaw to cup her face, holding her gaze with fierce certainty. "I don't let anyone decide when my story ends. Not Paulo Viga, not fate, not you." His voice dropped. "And I sure as hell wasn't going to watch you walk away without fighting for the chance to actually know you." Jade's breath caught. "You don't know what you're asking for. Then show me." The words hung between them, challenge and invitation and confession all at once. Outside, the storm broke. Rain hammered against glass like bullets. Lightning split the sky, lighting up both their faces in stark white clarity. Jade made her choice. She kissed him, not gentle or uncertain, but fierce. All the fear and loneliness and desperate need for connection poured into the pressure of lips against lips. Marcus responded immediately, pulling her close, one hand tangling in her hair, while the other pressed against the small of her back. They moved together the way they fought, synchronized, intense, each giving and taking in equal measure. Jade's hands found his shirt, fisted in the fabric, pulling him closer still. Marcus groaned against her mouth, the sound vibrating through her chest. Then Jade pulled back, breathing hard, reality crashing down like the rain outside. "This is a mistake," she gasped. Probably. Marcus's forehead rested against hers, both of them trembling. "But I'm done playing it safe, done pretending. I don't want safe. I want you. We're being hunted. I know. They'll use this against us, use me to hurt you. Let them try." His grip tightened. "I've spent 20 years being untouchable, alone, building walls so high nobody could reach me. And you walked through them like they were made of paper, like you belonged there all along." Jade's throat tightened. "I don't belong anywhere. You belong here with me, fighting beside me." Marcus pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "Tell me you don't feel it. This thing between us. Tell me I'm imagining the way we fit together." She couldn't. Because he was right. From that first moment in the restaurant, fighting side by side, moving like they had trained together for years, something had clicked into place. Recognition deeper than attraction, understanding beyond words. "I feel it," Jade admitted quietly. "And it terrifies me." "Good." Marcus smiled. "Small, genuine, devastating. Terror means you're alive, means you still care enough to be afraid of loss." Outside, the storm raged. Inside, they stood in the eye of it, two people learning to be human again, knowing tomorrow would bring blood and fire, but choosing this moment anyway. Jade pressed her palm against his chest, felt his heartbeat hammering beneath skin and bone. "Steady, strong, real. If we do this," she said, "if we cross this line, there's no going back. Paulo will see it as weakness. He'll use it to destroy us both. Then we'll destroy him first." The words settled between them like a vow. Jade stepped back, needing space to think, but Marcus's phone buzzed before either could speak. He pulled it out, read the screen, and his expression turned to stone. "Victor just sent footage from your apartment explosion." He turned the phone toward her. Security camera stills, grainy but clear enough. 3 men with Los Lobos tattoos visible on their necks, planting devices with professional efficiency. And in the final image, one of them looking directly at the camera, smiling, holding up a photo. A photo of Jade and Marcus leaving the restaurant together. "They know," Jade breathed. "They know." Marcus pocketed the phone, which means the hunt just got personal for both of us. Jade moved back to the window, watched lightning crack the sky. Her reflection stared back at her, hard eyes, tight mouth, the face of someone preparing for war. Behind her, Marcus's reflection joined hers. 2 silhouettes against the storm. "What now?" he asked. Jade smiled, cold, sharp, the expression of a weapon remembering its purpose. Now we stop running, stop hiding. She turned to face him. Now we hunt them back. Marcus's eyes gleamed with something that looked like pride. Together, they stood in the dark house on the cliff, rain hammering down, the Pacific churning below like an audience waiting for blood. Somewhere in the city, Paulo Vega was celebrating, planning his next move, sharpening his knives. Let him? Jade had been a weapon far longer than he had been alive. And now she had something worth fighting for beyond mere survival. She had a partner, a purpose, a reason to stop hiding and start burning everything that dared to threaten what mattered. The storm raged on. Inside the safe house, two monsters remembered what it meant to be human, just long enough to choose violence together. Tomorrow, they would make Paulo Vega regret every match he had ever lit. Tonight, they planned his funeral. Rain turned the windows into rivers. Jade sat cross-legged on the floor, Marcus's laptop open in front of her, eyes scanning surveillance footage and intel reports with surgical focus. She had shed her jacket. Shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing scars that mapped a history written in violence. Marcus watched her from the kitchen, pouring whiskey he wasn't really drinking, just needing something to do with his hands. "Your security protocols are garbage," she said without looking up. "Los Lobos knew your movements 3 days in advance. That means someone in your inner circle is feeding them real-time intelligence. I know." Marcus set down the bottle. "Victor has been running background checks on everyone with high-level access. So far, nothing." Then look deeper, past the obvious. People don't usually betray for money. They betray because they believe they're doing the right thing. Ideology, revenge, misplaced loyalty. Jade's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Who in your organization has family in Mexico? Connections to the Vega cartel before it went to war with you?" Marcus moved closer, studying the screen over her shoulder. His presence was solid, grounding. "Ray Park, he runs my Koreatown operations. His wife has family in Guadalajara, but he's been with me for 8 years, loyal, reliable. 8 years is plenty of time to build cover." Jade pulled up personnel files, started referencing, "What happened 8 years ago? Why did you hire him?" "A recommendation from an associate. He needed work, had experience in logistics and distribution. Started small, worked his way up." Marcus frowned. "You think he's been planning this from the beginning? Maybe. Or maybe Los Lobos got to him recently, found leverage, threatened his family." Jade clicked through financial records. There, 3 wire transfers over the past month, 20,000 each, routed through middleman accounts, but sloppy enough that someone wanted you to find them eventually. That's pocket change for someone in Ray's position. Exactly, which means it's not about the money. Jade sat back, processing. It's a message. Paulo's showing you that loyalty is fiction, that anyone can be bought, broken, turned. He's not just attacking your empire. He's attacking your belief system. Marcus's jaw clenched. "I need to bring Ray in." "No." Jade closed the laptop, turned to face him. "You bring him in. Paulo knows you're onto the leak. Better to use him. Feed him false information. Set a trap. Use my own man as bait. He stopped being your man when he took their money." Jade stood stretched, felt her spine crack. "This is war, Marcus. Sentiment gets people killed. I know what war is." His voice was sharp, defensive. "I've fought more of them than you've seen birthdays." Then stop hesitating. Jade moved closer, invaded his space deliberately. "You want Paulo, you want revenge for those people he burned. Then you need to think like he does. Strike where it hurts. Show no mercy. I'm not him. No, you're worse." Jade's eyes bored into his. "Because you have the capacity for mercy, and you choose violence anyway. That makes you more dangerous than any thug operating on pure rage." Marcus stared at her, something shifting in his expression. "Is that what you tell yourself to justify what you've done?" "I don't justify anything. I just survive." Jade turned away, moved to the window. The storm had intensified. Waves hammering the cliffs. Wind howling like grief. "You wanted to know who I am, fine. I'm the woman who carried out an order in front of innocent witnesses because those were my instructions. I'm the soldier who burned an entire safe house to smoke. Out one target. I'm the weapon that worked so well they couldn't retire me. They had to bury me. Silence filled the space between them. And now, Marcus asked quietly, now I'm trying to figure out if I'm still that person, or if I've been playing human so long I've forgotten how to be the monster. Jade pressed her palm against the glass, felt the cold bleeding through. You make it complicated. How? Because you see me, not the mask, not the ghost me. She didn't turn around. And when someone sees you, really sees you, it's harder to hide, harder to pretend you're empty inside. Marcus moved behind her, close enough that his breath stirred her hair. Maybe you're not empty. Maybe you're just tired of carrying everything alone. Jade's reflection in the glass showed an exhaustion she usually kept hidden. Aren't you? Yes. His hand found her shoulder, gentle pressure, which is why I'm grateful you're here, even if it's dangerous, even if it costs me everything. It will cost you everything. Jade turned to face him. That's what Paulo wants, to strip you down, destroy your empire, leave you with nothing, then take everything else. Then let him take everything else. Marcus's hand moved from her shoulder to her face, cradling her jaw. As long as I keep this moment, this choice, you, Jade's breath caught. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you scan exits even in safe spaces because nowhere has ever felt truly safe. I know you hide because being seen means being vulnerable, and vulnerability means death. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know what it's like to be exactly that kind of broken. She should pull away. Maintain distance. Professional boundaries were the only thing keeping them both alive. But Marcus's touch was warm, and his eyes held something that looked like true understanding. And Jade was so desperately tired of being alone. Tell me. She whispered about Busen, about whatever made you into this. Marcus's expression softened for a moment. Then he stepped back, gave her space, and began. My father was a fisherman, honest work, honest life, but Busen isn't kind to honest people. The gangs control the docks, protection money, smuggling routes, violence as currency. He refused to pay, said he'd rather starve than feed the beasts. Marcus moved to the whiskey, finally poured himself a glass. So they made an example, burned his boat, beat him in front of our entire neighborhood, showed everyone what happened when you said no. Jade listened, perfectly still. I was 15, watching my father bleed on the dock while men laughed, and I understood something in that moment. Marcus drank, set the glass down with controlled precision. Power isn't given, it's taken, and the only way to protect what you love is to become more dangerous than anything that threatens it. So you joined them? No, I destroyed them. Marcus's eyes went distant, seeing a past stained in red. Took me 3 years. I learned their operations, their weaknesses, their structure, made myself useful, indispensable, got close enough to their leadership that they trusted me with their secrets. He smiled, cold, terrible. Then I burned it all down, every warehouse, every safe house, every connection they had, left them exposed for their rivals to devour. And your father? He died 6 months after the beating, injuries he never recovered from, never knew what I'd become to avenge him. Marcus's voice cracked slightly. Maybe that's mercy. Maybe he would have hated what I turned into. Jade crossed the room, stood beside him. Or maybe he would have understood that sometimes love looks like destruction. Is that what this is? Marcus met her eyes. Destruction disguised as something better. I don't know yet. Jade took the whiskey glass from his hand, drank what remained. It burned beautifully, but I know Paulo doesn't get to decide how this story ends. We do. Thunder cracked so loud the windows rattled. Lightning lit them both up in stark white. 2 figures standing in darkness, surrounded by glass and storm. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to step back if she wanted, and pulled her close, not with desire, just with the need for contact, the warmth of another person who understood what it meant to carry death on your skin. Jade let herself lean into him, felt his heartbeat against her cheek, steady and strong, felt something inside her chest crack open just enough to hurt. I'm going to get you killed, she whispered against his shirt. Then at least I'll die for something real. His arms tightened around her. Better than slowly choking under the weight of an empire I built from other people's bones. They stood like that as the storm raged, holding each other, not from desire, but from desperate need for proof that they were more than the violence they carried. Jade felt his breath in her hair, his hands steady on her back, and for one impossible moment, she let herself imagine safety. Home, peace. Then her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, read the message, and felt ice replace whatever warmth had been building. What? Marcus asked, sensing the shift. Victor just sent surveillance from the port. Los Lobos is moving tonight. Weapons shipment coming in. Heavy security. Jade showed him the screen. Heat signatures, guard rotations, blind spots in their coverage. They're expecting you to be grieving, wounded, not planning a strike with someone who can read a tactical setup in her sleep. Marcus studied the footage, and Jade watched him transform. The vulnerable man disappeared. What remained was the wolf, calculating, predatory, ruthless. We'd need a team. Equipment. Extraction routes if it goes sideways. I can handle logistics. You focus on positioning. Your people trust you. We use that. Make them believe this is about striking back emotionally. Jade pulled up blueprints on her phone. But really, we're surgical, fast, gone before they even register what hit them. And Ray Park. We use him exactly as planned, feed him information about a different target tonight, let him pass it to Paulo. While Los Lobos is defending the wrong location, we hit them where they're actually vulnerable. Marcus smiled, dark, approving. You're terrifying when you strategize. You have no idea. Jade grabbed her jacket. We need to move now. Gather your most trusted people, not Ray Park, not anyone in his immediate circle. People who have bled for you, people who will follow you into the dark. That's a short list. Good. Makes it easier to keep secrets. They worked through the night, calls made in hushed tones. Resources moved, weapons checked and rechecked. Jade coordinated like she had been born to it. Every action precise. Every decision purposeful. Marcus watched her transform from the woman who had trembled in his arms into the operative who had changed the course of entire governments. And he felt something that might have been love, but looked more like inevitability. By dawn, they had a plan. Dangerous, aggressive, exactly the kind of move Paulo would never expect from a supposedly broken adversary. Jade stood at the window as first light painted the ocean in shades of blood and gold. Marcus came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, pressed a kiss to her shoulder. After this, he said quietly, after we burn Los Lobos to ash. What then? I don't know. Jade covered his hands with hers. I've never thought past survival, never planned for a future that might actually exist. Then let's make one. Marcus turned her to face him. Not built on violence, not held together by shared trauma. Something real. Jade looked up at him, at eyes that held impossible hope despite everything he had seen, everything he had done. You're asking for a fairy tale. I'm asking for a chance. The words settled between them like a promise neither was sure they could keep. If we survive tonight, Jade said, ask me again. Deal. Marcus kissed her, soft, brief, tasting of coffee and desperate hope. They pulled apart, checked weapons, reviewed the plan one final time. Then they drove into the city as dawn broke over Los Angeles, painting everything in shades of fire. Tonight, they would make Paulo Viger remember what it meant to hunt wolves. Tonight, monsters would remind the world why humans should fear the dark. The port district smelled like rust and broken promises. Jade moved through shadows, Marcus 3 steps behind, both of them armed and silent as death. The rest of the team, 6 of Marcus's most trusted people, spread out across the complex, covering exits and angles of attack. The intelligence had been perfect, almost too perfect. Jade's instincts screamed, hold. She whispered into her earpiece. The team froze. Something's wrong. Where's the heavy security, the reinforcements? Marcus's voice crackled in her ear. You think they made us. I think we're not the only ones playing games tonight. Jade scanned the containers, the loading cranes, the dark spaces between massive steel boxes. Pull back. Regroup at. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions at once. Jade dove behind a container as bullets sparked off metal. Her team returned fire, muzzle flashes lighting up the night. Shouts in Spanish and Korean. Los Lobos hadn't come alone. They brought an army, ambush, someone yelled into the comm. They were waiting, the voice cut off. Body hitting concrete, Jade's combat instincts took over. She moved fluid and fast using the container maze for cover, picking off targets with brutal efficiency. Headshot, center mass, no wasted ammunition. The weapon in her hand was just an extension of her body. Decades of training reducing violence to muscle memory. Marcus fought like something out of a night, mere 10 meters away, close quarters, hand to hand when enemies got too close. Using every dirty trick that had kept him alive this long, Jade caught glimpses of him between containers, breaking bones, stealing weapons, moving with lethal grace. But Los Lobos had numbers, and they had known exactly where Marcus's team would be. Fall back, Marcus ordered into the comm. Get to the extraction point. Sir, we're cut off. Another voice panicked. They've got the north exit blocked. Explosion. The earpiece filled with static and screaming. Jade's blood turned cold. This wasn't an ambush, this was extermination. Polo had known they were coming, had prepared to wipe out Marcus's entire inner circle in one night, which meant the leak was far worse than they had thought. Marcus, Jade shouted over the gunfire. Ray Park didn't betray you, Victor did. Silence on the line. Then Marcus's voice, low and deadly, explain. The intel was too good, the timing too perfect. Victor is the only one who knew our exact plan tonight, who knew where we'd be and when. Jade dropped another enemy, reloaded without looking. He's been playing you from the beginning, probably from before Los Lobos even started this war. More gunfire. Closer now, they were being herded toward the water, toward a kill zone with no cover and nowhere left to run. Where are you? Marcus demanded. Container row 7. 5 enemies, pinned down, 3 between us. Jade assessed the layout. Calculated angles and odds. I'm coming to you. 60 seconds. Cover your back. Jade, don't. But she was already moving. Fast, low, using darkness and chaos as cover. She took down 2 men without slowing, wounded a third, and reached Marcus's position just as he put down the last enemy pressing him. Their eyes met across the darkness. No words needed. They moved together, backs to each other, a 2-person machine that cut through Los Lobos' forces like a blade through paper. But there were too many, and Marcus's team, his loyal people, were dying. Jade could hear it over the earpiece. Screams cut short, final gasps, the wet sounds of bodies hitting concrete. We need to get out, Jade said, dropping an enemy who had rounded the container too fast. Regroup, live to fight another day. I'm not leaving my people. Your people are already dead. Jade grabbed his arm, forced him to meet her eyes. This is a slaughter. If we stay, we die too, and then Paulo wins everything. Marcus's face twisted with rage and grief. But he was practical enough to recognize truth when it was trying to save his life. Extraction point Beta, he said into the earpiece. Anyone still alive, get there now. Silence answered, then static, then nothing. They ran through the container maze, Los Lobos' forces converging behind them. Jade threw a flash grenade, bought them seconds. Marcus laid down suppressing fire, keeping the hunters at distance. They moved with synchronized precision, covering each other, anticipating every movement, fighting like they had been doing this together for years instead of days. The extraction point was a dock jutting into black water. A speedboat waited there, insurance Jade had insisted on. A backup plan nobody else knew about. They were 20 meters away when Jade felt the impact, not pain at first. Just force. Her leg buckled. She went down hard, her weapon skittering across the concrete. Jade. Marcus's voice raw with something that sounded like real fear. She looked down, blood spreading across her thigh, dark and fast, potentially arterial, potentially fatal if not treated immediately. Go, she gasped, get to the boat. Not happening. Marcus was already there, scooping her up with frightening strength, running toward the dock while bullets sparked around them. Jade tried to protest, but the pain was catching up now, white, hot and all, consuming. She pressed her hand against the wound, felt blood pulse between her fingers. Too much, too fast. Marcus reached the boat, laid her down with surprising gentleness given the circumstances. His hands found her thigh, pressed hard against the wound. Jade screamed, I know. He muttered, ripping his shirt to make a tourniquet. Stay with me, Jade, stay awake. Kind of hard when I'm bleeding out, then bleed slower. He tied off the tourniquet with brutal efficiency, tight enough to make her vision go white. We're getting you to a hospital. No hospitals, they'll find us. Jade grabbed his wrist. Your penthouse. You have medical supplies there. Some, not enough for this. Then it'll have to be enough. She tried to sit up, failed, collapsed back. Marcus, listen, Victor, I know. His voice was granite. I'll deal with him, after I make sure you don't die on me. Always so romantic, Jade whispered, then passed out. She woke to pain and motion. Marcus, driving like the devil himself, was chasing them, weaving through empty on streets. Jade's leg was on fire. Everything was on fire, still alive. Marcus asked without taking his eyes off the road. Debatable. Jade looked down at her thigh. The tourniquet had slowed the bleeding, but blood still seeped through the makeshift bandage. How bad? You'll live. Assuming we get you somewhere, I can treat this in the next 10 minutes. Your bedside manner needs work. Despite everything, Marcus laughed, a short, sharp, slightly unhinged. You got shot protecting me again. That's becoming a dangerous pattern. Someone has to keep you alive. Jade closed her eyes against a wave of nausea. How many did we lose? The silence stretched too long. Marcus, all of them. His voice was hollow. 6 good people. Dead because I walked them into a trap. Because Victor betrayed you. I trusted him. 10 years, Jade. A decade. And he sold me out for what? Money. Paulo's promises. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. What does that mean? Doesn't matter why. What matters is he's still out there. Still feeding intel to Los Lobos. Still dangerous. Not for long. Marcus's jaw set. When I'm done with him, Paulo will find pieces scattered across the city. They reached the penthouse. Marcus carried her inside, ignoring her protests that she could walk. He laid her on the dining table, imported marble, obscenely expensive, now about to be covered in blood. This is going to hurt, he warned, pulling out a medical kit that looked military grade. Everything hurts. Just do it. Marcus cut away her pants, exposing the wound. Entry point high on her outer thigh. No exit wound. Bullet still inside. His jaw clenched. I need to extract it. You've done this before. I can see it in how you're assessing the damage. That was a lifetime ago. Different context. Same principles. Sterilize, extract, suture. I'll walk you through it if you... Her words cut off in a scream as Marcus poured antiseptic over the wound. Sorry, he said, not sounding sorry. There's no gentle way to do this. He worked with grim efficiency. Local anesthetic that barely touched the pain. Surgical tools that looked too clean to have ever been used. Hands that were steady despite the rage. Jade could see building behind his eyes. The extraction took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Jade bit down on a leather strap, tears streaming, while Marcus dug through muscle and tissue to find the bullet. When he finally pulled it free, deformed copper and lead, she nearly passed out again. Done, Marcus said quietly. Now the stitches. Jade watched the ceiling, felt every pierce of the needle through her skin, and tried not to think about how many of Marcus's people had died tonight. How many families would wake to news that their loved ones weren't coming home? How many deaths carried her fingerprints because she had believed they could outmaneuver Paulo Vega? This is my fault, she whispered. No. Marcus's voice was firm. This is Victor's fault, and Paulo's, and mine for not seeing the betrayal sooner. But mostly it's a reminder that we're fighting people who don't care about rules or honor, who'll burn everything we love just to watch us suffer. Jade sat up slowly, testing the leg. Pain screamed, but the bleeding had stopped. Where is he, Victor? I don't know. He went dark after the ambush. Marcus cleaned the blood from his hands, methodical and cold. But I'll find him, and when I do, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read the message. His face went absolutely blank. What? Jade asked. It's from Victor. Marcus turned the screen toward her. You should have stayed in Busan. The wolf belongs in a cage. Check your penthouse security footage from 2 hours ago. Jade's stomach dropped. Marcus pulled up the security feed, scrubbed backward, and they watched in silent horror. Victor entering the penthouse with a keycard he shouldn't have had. Moving through rooms with familiar ease. Planting devices, small, professional, barely visible, cameras. Listening equipment. He's been watching us. Marcus breathed. Everything. Every conversation. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. The implications were clear and devastating. How long? Jade asked since the beginning, maybe longer. Marcus's hands shook with rage. He knew about you, about us, fed it all to Paulo, made us think we were hunting them when really they were studying us. Jade slid off the table, tested weight on her injured leg. It held barely. Then he knows we're here, knows we survived. Yes, which means Los Lobos is coming. Probably already on their way. Marcus moved to the window, looked out at the city beginning to wake. Let them come. I'm done running, done hiding, done playing their game by their rules. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I'm going to burn Paulo Vega alive. I'm going to make Victor watch. And then I'm going to show this entire city what happens when you hunt wolves. Jade saw it in his eyes, the death of restraint, the birth of something darker, more primal, the businessman evaporating, leaving only the monster underneath. If you go down that road, she said quietly, there's no coming back. I know. You'll lose yourself. Maybe. Marcus crossed to her, cupped her face with hands still stained with her blood. But I'll have kept you alive, that's enough. Jade searched his face, saw the man she had been falling for disappearing beneath rage and grief. She should stop him, pull him back from the edge. Instead, she kissed him a hard, desperate, tasting like blood and resignation. Then we do it together, she said against his lips. We burn everything, leave nothing standing, make them regret every breath they've taken since this started. Marcus's arms tightened around her. You should run, disappear, let me handle this. I'm done running. Jade pulled back, met his eyes. You said we were partners, equal risk. That means I stand with you until the end, whatever that looks like. Even if the end is fire, especially if the end is fire, she smiled. Cold and terrible and completely certain. I've been burned before. This time I'm controlling the flame. Dawn broke over Los Angeles. Somewhere in the city, Victor was laughing. Paulo Vega was planning. And two people who had tried very hard to be human remembered why monsters survived when good people didn't. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another message from Victor, rooftop, midnight, come alone, or she dies screaming. Below it, a photo, Jade's old apartment, the one that had exploded, and standing in front of the rubble, a young woman. Early 20s, beautiful, terrified, Jade's blood turned to ice. Who is that? I don't know. Lie. A liar? Jade grabbed his phone, zoomed in on the photo. The woman's face was familiar in ways that made her chest ache. Marcus, who is she? His expression cracked. My sister, half-sister from my father's second marriage. I sent her to America for school, kept her away from this life. Victor is one of the only people who knew about her. His voice broke. I thought I was protecting her. He's going to kill her, Jade said quietly, unless you give him what he wants. Which is what? My life? My empire? You? Jade's mind raced, calculating options and odds. He wants you broken, wants you to choose between vengeance and family, to force you into sacrificing everything for someone you love. Then he's already won. Marcus sank into a chair, suddenly looking decades older. Because I can't let her die. She's innocent. He pressed his hands against his face. She's the only family I have left. Jade limped to him, placed her hand on his shoulder. Then we don't go alone. We don't play his game. We make our own rules. He said come alone. He said a lot of things. Most of them were lies. Jade's voice hardened. You want to save your sister, fine. But we do it smart, tactical, using everything I know about hostage extraction and everything you know about Victor's psychology. Marcus looked up at her. What are you suggesting? That we stop reacting and start acting? That we give Paulo and Victor exactly what they want? Jade smiled, sharp and dangerous. Until the moment we give them what they deserve instead. Outside, the city woke to another beautiful day. Inside, 2 people planned a rescue dressed as surrender. Midnight was 12 hours away. Jade intended to spend every single second making sure Victor regretted ever learning her name. Jade spent the day turning Marcus's penthouse into a war room. Weapons laid out with surgical precision. Maps marked with approach vectors, every possible outcome planned for, every variable accounted for. Her wounded leg screamed with each movement, but she ignored it. Pain was just information. Staying alive was the only thing that mattered. Marcus made calls, quiet, coded conversations with people Jade didn't ask about, resources being moved, favors being called in, the infrastructure of an empire being repurposed for one desperate rescue mission. They didn't talk about what would happen if they failed. Some futures were too dark to speak into existence. By evening, Jade had modified her tactical vest to work around the leg wound, armed herself with enough firepower to start a small war, and run through the plan 17 times in her head. Marcus found her on the balcony, watching the sun sink into the Pacific like a drowning god. "You should eat something," he said, standing beside her. "Can't. I need to stay light, mobile. Food slows reflexes. Jade, I know what I'm doing." She didn't look at him. "I've run missions like this in 12 countries, extracted people from much worse situations. Victor thinks he's smart, but he's emotional. That makes him predictable. And if you're wrong..." Finally, Jade turned to face him. "Then your sister dies. We probably die, and Paulo Vigo wins everything." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Inspiring? I don't do inspiration. I do probability and violence." Jade softened just slightly. "But if you're asking if I think we can pull this off, yes. Barely. With luck, we don't deserve, and timing that would make a clockwork jealous. That's not exactly reassuring." "Good. Confidence gets people killed." She reached out, traced the line of his jaw. "Healthy fear keeps you sharp." Marcus caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm. "I meant what I said earlier about making something real. Marcus, I know, terrible timing, but if tonight goes sideways, I need you to know." He took a breath. "You're the first person in 20 years who's made me want something beyond revenge and survival. Who's made me remember what it feels like to be human instead of just wearing the costume." Jade's throat tightened. "You're romanticizing trauma bonding. No, I'm telling you the truth before we walk into hell." His hand moved to her face, holding her gaze. "I see you, Jade, whoever you really are beneath all the names and all the masks. I see the woman who fights like war is worship and hides because being seen means death. I see someone as broken as I am, trying just as hard to put the pieces back together. Broken things don't heal. They just learn to live with the cracks. Then let's be broken together." Marcus's forehead touched hers. "Let's survive tonight and build something from the wreckage. Something that doesn't require blood to hold it together." Jade closed her eyes, felt his breath on her skin, let herself imagine it a life beyond violence, mornings that didn't start with threat assessments, nights that ended in peace instead of nightmares. It was the most dangerous fantasy she had ever allowed herself. "If we survive," she whispered, "ask me again. I will, every single day until you believe it." They stood like that as darkness swallowed the city. 2 people about to gamble everything on a plan built more on desperation than strategy. Jade's phone alarm chimed. 11:00 p.m., 1 hour until midnight, time to move, she said, pulling away. They geared up in silence. Checking weapons, securing equipment, performing the rituals of people who had done this too many times before. Jade strapped a knife to her uninjured thigh, another to her ankle. Marcus loaded magazines with methodical precision, each click of ammunition a promise of violence. At 11:30, they left the penthouse, took the service elevator down to the garage. Marcus's motorcycle waited fast, agile, perfect for the kind of extraction that required speed over armor. Jade climbed on behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, felt his heartbeat through his jacket. "Steady, determined, last chance to walk away," Marcus said, "and miss all the fun." Jade's voice was light, but her grip tightened. "Drive, They shot into the Los Angeles night, weaving through traffic with controlled aggression. The meeting point was across town, a half-finished building where construction had been halted by lawsuits, now just a skeleton of concrete and ambition reaching toward uncaring stars. Perfect for an ambush, they arrived at 11:50. Marcus killed the engine 2 blocks away. They approached on foot, using darkness and parked cars for cover. Jade's leg protested every step, but adrenaline was better than any painkiller. The building loomed above them, 30 floors of exposed steel rebar and empty windows. Jade scanned the structure, mapping positions and sight lines. Rooftop, she murmured. He'll have her there. Maximum exposure, hard to approach without being spotted. He wants you vulnerable, emotional. So we give him that. Jade met Marcus's eyes. You go up the main way, visible, hands empty, exactly what he demanded. And you? I go up the hard way, climb the outside, come in from behind while he's focused on you. Jade pulled out a compact grappling system borrowed from contacts she didn't explain. When I signal, you drop, I handle the rest. That's not a plan, that's barely a prayer. Welcome to tactical operations. Jade checked her weapons one final time. Trust me. Marcus looked at her. Really looked? Like he was memorizing every detail in case it was the last time. With my life. With everything. Then let's go save your sister and end a traitor. They split up. Marcus entered through the main construction entrance, hands raised, playing the defeated billionaire. Jade circled the building, found a structural column, and began to climb. The ascent was brutal. Every pull aggravated her wounded leg. Cold wind bit through her gear, but Jade had climbed worse surfaces in worse conditions. Pain was just noise. The mission was everything. She reached the 20th floor, pulled herself onto an exposed beam, caught her breath. 15 seconds, then kept climbing. Below, she could hear Marcus's voice echoing through the skeletal structure, talking to someone, Victor, probably, words she couldn't make out, but a tone she recognized. Negotiation disguised as surrender. 25th floor, arms screaming, blood seeping through the bandage on her thigh. Jade ignored both, focused on the next handhold, the next pull. 30th floor, the roof. Jade hauled herself over the edge, rolled into shadow, drew her weapon. The scene before her was exactly what she had expected, and somehow worse. Victor stood at the roof's edge. Marcus's sister kneeling before him, hands bound, mouth gagged. 2 other men, Los Lobos soldiers, flanked him. Weapons trained on Marcus as he stood 20 feet away, hands still raised, face carefully blank. I came alone. Marcus was saying, like you demanded. Now let her go. Victor laughed bitter, triumphant. You think I'm stupid? That I'd believe the great Marcus Shin would actually surrender. I'm here, aren't I? You're here, but where's your ghost? The woman who can't stop saving you. Victor's eyes swept the shadows. Jade Ellis, or whoever she really is. Jade stayed perfectly still, waiting, assessing angles. She's gone. Marcus said. Left the city after the port. Said this wasn't her fight. Liar. Victor pressed his gun against the girl's head. She whimpered behind the gag. You've been broadcasting from your penthouse all day. Planning, preparing. I heard everything. Jade's mind raced. He had left the listening devices active, wanted them to know he was listening. The trap wasn't just physical. It was psychological. Then you know I'm done. Marcus said quietly. You've won, you and Paulo. My empire is ash. My people are dead. All I want is my sister. Let her go, and I'll give you whatever you want. What I want, Victor's voice cracked with emotion, is for you to understand what it's like to lose everything, to have the thing you love most destroyed while you watch helplessly. Why, you killed my brother. Victor's gun hand trembled. 5 years ago, the Busan consolidation, you had rivals eliminated. Loose ends tied up. My brother was one of those ends, 23 years old, just graduated university, worked as an accountant. For one of your competitors. Innocent. Marcus's face went pale. I didn't know. You didn't care. Victor's composure shattered. He was just a name on a list. You signed the order without even reading it, and I've spent 5 years getting close to you, earning your trust. waiting for the perfect moment to take everything. Love, Jade's finger tightened on the trigger. Clean shot, 40 feet, strong crosswind, 90% chance. But the moment she fired, the Los Lobos soldiers would open up on Marcus. Maybe hit the girl, unacceptable. She needed a better angle, needed them distracted. Marcus must have reached the same conclusion because he took a step forward, drawing all eyes to him. Minjun, listen to me. I'm sorry. If I had known, sorry doesn't bring back the dead. Victor's voice echoed across the rooftop. Sorry doesn't give me back my brother, doesn't erase the moment I had to tell my mother her son was gone, that he died for your ambition. You're right. Marcus's voice broke with genuine emotion. You're absolutely right. I've taken so much, destroyed so much, all in the name of building something I told myself mattered. But it doesn't. None of it does compared to. He looked at his sister. To family, to the people we love. Jade used the moment, moved 3 steps closer, better angle now. 70% kill shot on Victor, but still too risky with the girl so close. I can't give you your brother back, Marcus continued. But I can give you my life. Let her go. Take me instead. End this however you need to. Marcus, no. His sister's muffled protest. Victor's gun pressed harder against her temple. I don't just want you dead. I want you destroyed. I want you to live knowing you couldn't save her. That your empire, your power, your precious control, all of it was worthless when it mattered most. His finger moved to the trigger. I want you to watch. Jade didn't think, just moved. She burst from shadow, crossing the distance in 4 seconds. Down, Marcus dropped instantly. Jade fired twice. Both Los Lobos soldiers went down before they could react. But Victor was faster than she expected, swinging his weapon toward her, even as he used the girl as a human shield. Jade adjusted mid-motion, couldn't take the shot without risking the hostage, so she did the only thing possible. She threw herself into Victor, full body, knocking them both toward the roof's edge. They went over together. Jade felt weightlessness, saw Marcus's face, horror and understanding, as she fell. Felt Victor's hand tangled in her tactical vest, dragging her down with him. Then her grappling line snapped taut. She'd hooked it on a steel beam as insurance she'd hoped not to need. It caught her 10 feet below the roof's edge, arresting the fall with brutal force that drove the air from her lungs. Victor wasn't so lucky. His scream cut off abruptly as he hit the ground 30 floors below. Jade hung in darkness, spinning slowly, lungs burning, wounded legs screaming. She heard Marcus above, shouting her name, then hands grabbing her vest, hauling her back onto the roof. She collapsed on concrete, gasping, everything hurting. You insane, brilliant, Marcus pulled her close, checking her for injuries. Are you hurt, Jade? Talk to me. I'm fine, she managed. Your sister. Unconscious but safe. Victor must have drugged her. Marcus's hands shook as they moved over her body, confirming she was intact. You could have died. That was the most reckless. It worked, didn't it? Despite everything, Marcus laughed, half sob, half pure relief. Yeah, it worked. Jade sat up slowly, testing her limbs. Everything functional. The leg wound had reopened. She could feel blood spreading, but nothing fatal. Just another scar to add to the collection. We need to move, she said. Victor might have called for backup before, already handled. Marcus helped her stand. I had people staged nearby just in case. They're sweeping the building now. Of course you did. Jade smiled despite the pain. You didn't trust me. I trusted you completely, but I'm not an idiot. Marcus looked at her, really looked, and Jade saw something in his expression that made her chest ache. You were going to sacrifice yourself. If it came down to a choice between me and my sister, you were ready to die so we both lived. That's the job, no. His hand found her face. That's love dressed up as duty, and I'm done pretending I don't know the difference. Jade wanted to argue, to explain that it was just strategy, just tactical priority, but the words wouldn't come, because maybe he was right. Maybe somewhere between the violence and the survival, she had started caring about more than just the mission. Marcus kissed her right there on the rooftop, surrounded by unconscious enemies and the distant sound of sirens. Kissed her like she was air and he had been underwater. Jade kissed him back, tasted blood and desperation and impossible hope. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus pressed his forehead to hers. After this, he whispered, "After we deal with Paulo, I know." Jade's voice was soft, "Me too." His sister groaned, consciousness returning. Marcus moved to her side, checking her vitals, untying her hands. She blinked up at him with eyes that were his but younger. More innocent. "Appa," she whispered in Korean. "I'm here. You're safe." The man. Her voice cracked. "He said you killed people, that you were a monster." Marcus's expression shuddered. Jade saw him calculating what to say. How much truth to reveal. He was right. Marcus said finally, "I have killed people. I've done terrible things, built an empire from violence and fear. I am," he took a breath. "I am exactly the monster he said I was." His sister stared at him, processing, "But I'm also your brother, and I will burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone hurt you again." He helped her stand. "Can you live with that, with knowing what I am?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then at Jade, standing bloodied and armed in the shadows. Then back at Marcus. "You came for me," she said quietly. "When you could have walked away, when you could have let me die to protect yourself, you came, always." She hugged him then, fierce and desperate. Marcus held her, and Jade saw his face crack completely, with emotion he had been holding back for hours. Family, the thing that made monsters human, the thing worth dying for. Jade turned away, giving them privacy. Looked out at Los Angeles, spreading below like a map of possibilities. The city glittered, indifferent to violence and rescue. Just another night in a place where people fought and bled and hoped for dawn. Her phone buzzed. Message from an unknown number. Victor was just the opening move. "Your turn, Ellis." PV. Jade smiled, cold and absolutely certain. "Good," she whispered to the city. "I was hoping you'd make this personal." Behind her, Marcus finished with his sister. Called his backup team to move her somewhere safe. Then he stood beside Jade, looking at the same city, seeing the same war. "It's not over, is it?" he asked. "No, this was just the betrayal. Now comes the real fight." Jade met his eyes. "Paulo knows we survived, knows we're coming. He'll fortify, prepare, make the final stand as brutal as possible." "Good." Marcus's voice was granite. "I want him ready. I want him to understand exactly who's hunting him. What kind of monsters live in the shadows he thought he controlled." They stood together as night deepened around them. Two people who had tried very hard to be civilized, finally remembering why civilization was just a thin layer over sharpened teeth. Tomorrow they would finish it, would burn Paulo Vega and Los Lobos to ash. Tonight they allowed themselves one moment of stillness, standing on a rooftop above a city that ate people alive, holding each other like anchors in a storm. "You think power makes you safe," Jade had said once. Marcus had learned the truth. Power didn't make you safe. It just made the target on your back bigger, brighter, impossible to miss. But maybe with the right person beside you, it made you dangerous enough that the monsters hunting you thought twice before attacking. Maybe that was enough. The storm was coming, but for one perfect moment, they pretended they couldn't hear the thunder. The warehouse district smelled like gasoline and broken promises. Jade stood in shadow across from Los Lobos' headquarters, a converted textile factory that now served as Paulo's throne room. 3 weeks since the rooftop. 3 weeks of planning, gathering intelligence, watching Paulo fortify his position like a king preparing for siege. Tonight, the siege began. Thermal shows 40, 3 bodies inside. Jade murmured into her earpiece. "Heavy concentration on the 2nd floor. That's where he'll be. Entry points, 4 confirmed." Marcus's voice crackled in her ear. "Loading dock south side. 2 guards on rotating patrol. Roof access northwest corner, unsecured but exposed. Front entrance suicide. And the old underground steam tunnels from when this was still an industrial district. The tunnels," Jade confirmed. She turned to look at Marcus standing 10 feet away, dressed in black tactical gear that made him look more soldier than businessman. "You're sure about this? Once we go in, there's no walking it back. This becomes war, total, final. It's been war since he burned my restaurant." Marcus checked his weapon. "Practiced, efficient. I'm just finished pretending otherwise." Jade nodded. Around them, Marcus's remaining forces staged in darkness. 20 people, professionals, ex-military, ex-police, the kind of individuals who understood violence as a language and had been speaking it since before Paulo Vega was born. Not enough to match Los Lobos' numbers, but enough if they were smart, brutal, and willing to push all the way through. Everyone clear on objectives. Jade asked into the calm, a chorus of quiet affirmatives. Good, we move in 3 minutes. Remember, this isn't about wiping out everyone. It's about reaching Paulo. Everything else is just clearing a path. She cut the connection. Turn to Marcus. Last chance. We can still call this off. Disappear. Let Paulo think he won and live looking over our shoulders forever. Marcus's jaw set. No, this ends tonight. One way or another. That's what I'm afraid of. Jade touched his arm. If something goes wrong, if I go down, you get out. Don't play the hero. Don't martyr yourself. Just survive. Funny. Marcus's hand covered hers. I was about to say the exact same thing to you. They looked at each other, and Jade saw everything they had never said out loud, reflected in his eyes. Warmth, understanding, the kind of bond that grows between people who have bled together and chosen each other anyway. If we survive this, Marcus started. When Jade corrected. When we survive this, Marcus amended. I'm taking you somewhere quiet. Somewhere without fire or bullets or people trying to kill us. And I'm asking you properly, about us. About building something that doesn't require blood. That's a hell of a first date. We're a hell of a couple. Jade actually laughed at that, despite everything. Yeah, we are. The timer on her watch hit 0. Time, she said quietly. Let's go burn down an empire. They moved as one unit, flowing through the darkness toward the steam tunnel entrance. Jade led. She knew these systems, had studied them obsessively. The tunnels were tight, low, lined with pipes that dripped condensation like nervous sweat. Perfect infiltration route. Perfect death trap if Los Lobos discovered them. They moved in silence. Single file, weapons up. Jade's wounded leg protested every step, but she had wrapped it tight and loaded up on painkillers she'd regret later. Later didn't matter, only forward. The tunnel opened into the warehouse basement. Jade raised a fist. Halt, listened, voices above, footsteps, guard rotation. She checked her watch. 30 seconds until they moved past this section. 30 seconds of exposure. They waited. Time stretched. Jade counted heartbeats, matched her breathing to the rhythm of patrol boots overhead. The footsteps faded, move. They climbed stairs, entered the main warehouse floor, containers stacked like metal coffins. Shadows thick enough to hide armies. Jade scanned the space, mapping threats and routes. Marcus moved beside her, rifle up, covering the angle she couldn't see. This was what they had become, 2 halves of one lethal machine. Gunfire erupted from the south side, the distraction team hitting the loading dock exactly on schedule. Los Lobos' forces converged on the noise, shouting in Spanish and Korean, weapons raised. Go, Jade ordered. The team split, half following Jade toward the north stairwell, the rest maintaining pressure at the perimeter. They climbed through chaos. Each floor brought new resistance. Guards scrambling to defensive positions, confused by the coordinated assault. Jade dropped targets with mechanical efficiency. Marcus moved like the predator he had always been. Efficient, brutal, second floor. Paulo's office door stood open, light spilling into the corridor like an invitation. Too easy. Jade signaled halt, scanned for trip wires, pressure plates, anything that screamed trap. Found nothing, which meant everything. He's not here. She said into Marcus's ear. Where then? Jade closed her eyes. Thought like someone cornered and desperate. The roof, he's on the roof. They reversed course, climbing higher. The building shook with explosions below, their team working through Los Lobos' defenses. Bodies littered the stairwells. The air tasted like copper and burnt powder. Top floor, roof access, and standing there, backlit by the glow of a million city lights, was Paulo Vega. Alone, Marcus Shin, Paulo said, spreading his arms wide. I was wondering when you'd stop sending others to die for you. Funny, Marcus replied, rifle-trained center mass. I could say the same. These people, Paulo gestured at the warehouse below. They chose this, chose loyalty to something bigger than themselves. His eyes found Jade. Unlike some people who fight for nothing but staying alive. Jade said nothing. Let him talk. Talking men made mistakes. You killed my father, Paulo continued. Took everything he built. Now I take everything you love. You already tried that, failed spectacularly. Paulo's expression darkened. He nodded once, and the roof erupted with hidden shooters emerging from behind HVAC units and ventilation structures. Jade moved on instinct, tackling Marcus behind a concrete barrier as bullets chewed through the air where they had been standing. Returned fire from below. Their team had followed and was engaging Paulo's forces. But Paulo was moving, using the chaos to reach the roof's edge, where a helicopter materialized from the darkness, spotlight blinding. No, Marcus surged forward. Jade grabbed him. Look. She pointed at the helicopter, at the figures inside. Federal agents, the kind of alphabet, soup law enforcement that had been building a case for 2 years. I made a call 3 weeks ago, gave them everything, financial records, trafficking routes, evidence of Victor's murders. They've been waiting for tonight to move. Marcus stared as Paulo realized his escape helicopter was actually his arrest. Watched the cartel boss's face transform from triumph to fury to something small and hollow. The helicopter landed, agents poured out. Paulo Vigo went down in handcuffs, screaming threats that meant absolutely nothing anymore. Silence fell, smoke drifted, bodies cooled. Marcus turned to Jade. You planned this, all of it. I planned for survival, for ending the war without becoming what we fought against. She met his gaze. You can't build something new on a foundation of more bodies. He pulled her close. Pressed a kiss to her forehead. You saved me again. We saved each other. They walked down through the burning warehouse, past surrendering Los Lobos soldiers, out into a dawn that painted everything gold and red. Emergency vehicles converged. The media would come soon, turning violence into narrative. But for now, they had each other. And the knowledge that they had survived. 10 miles outside the city, Jade's phone buzzed. She checked it, her expression tightening. What? Marcus asked. Message from my old handler, the one who buried me when I disappeared. She showed him the screen. 3 words. Contract reinstated. Run. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. What does that mean? Means someone knows I'm alive. Means they want me operational again. Means... Jade closed her eyes. Means they'll hunt me until I comply or die trying to stay free. Then we run together. Marcus, no. His voice was absolute. You stood with me through a war. I stand with you through whatever comes next. That's what partnership means. Jade looked at him, searching for doubt and finding only certainty. It never ends, she said quietly. You understand that. Even if we run, even if we hide, something always comes. Some threat, some enemy. Some past that refuses to stay buried. Then we'll face it together. Marcus's hand found hers. I'm done fighting alone. Done believing I have to carry everything myself. If we're going to burn, we burn together. She squeezed his hand, nodded, made her choice. They drove into morning light, leaving Los Angeles behind. 2 people who had tried very hard to be civilized, finally accepting what they were. Monsters learning to love each other's sharp edges. The city shrank in the rearview mirror. Somewhere behind them, police processed crime scenes, and prosecutors built cases and journalists wrote stories about violence that would be forgotten by next week's news cycle. But Jade and Marcus drove toward something that might be freedom, or might be another kind of cage entirely. Either way, they were choosing it together, and that had to count for something. In a city built on lies, she had been the only truth that drew blood, and he had been the only person brave enough to bleed beside her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. The highway stretched before them like a promise written in asphalt and morning light. And for the first time in longer than either could remember, they weren't running from something. They were running toward it.